In 2018, the journey started with the Safety Summit in Dubrovnik. The next station was Porto, with the European Rail Safety Days in 2021. In 2023, Tallinn was the place to be for railway safety. Today, we have arrived in Krakow for the 2025 European Rail Safety Days. In 2018, the journey started with the Safety Summit in Dubrovnik. The next station was Porto, with the European Rail Safety Days in 2021. In 2023, Tallinn was the place to be for railway safety. Today, we have arrived in Krakow for the 2025 European Rail Safety Days.
Good afternoon, everybody. I see we are happy and full of energy after lunch. I hope you enjoyed it. So I assume we can proceed with our next point in the program. So we will have a panel regarding safety culture. And I would like to welcome the head for this panel, holder of many multiple scientific degrees in various areas of industrial engineering, rail transport, human resources management, long practitioner, more than 20 years at the national IM at various posts, and for the last nearly 8 years, head of safety culture at ADIF. I give you Juan Luis Fuentes de Blas.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here with you for talking about safety leadership. My name is Juan Luis Fuentes. I work at ADIF, the Spanish IM, as the head of safety culture department. I am accompanied by my dear colleagues, Gregory Rolina from ERA, Bjorn Face from Eurostar, Nora Both from Israel, Bernard Pernes from Infrabel, Hans Flotmark from Railcare, and Stefanos Saroglidis, okay, from Stasi, okay. Well, pues all together will be with you on this journey. I hope you spend a good time with us, okay? Let's start. Okay. Please pay close attention for only a few seconds, because I am going to share with you an intuitive approach to the concept of safety leadership, but in a poetic way, okay?
If we were sailing on a blue sea, which was our railway sector, and our boat was safety, safety culture would be the turbine that would give it traction, and safety leadership would be the rudder that would give it course.
Okay, very important. Safety culture gives traction to safety, and safety leadership gives course. And it's very important because this is now, I'm going to talk about another important idea. All of us in our sector, we have a major and common objective. That is that to be excellent in safety operational, okay? This is our major and common objective. But safety leadership is perhaps the beginning, in a way, for excellence, because safety leadership is surely the most powerful tool for transforming or evolving the safety culture in any organization, okay? And really, it's very important to have a positive safety culture. I mean, just culture, reporting, continuous learning, transparency, etc. And safety leadership helps us to get that, and that is a key and essential factor to achieve the excellence in operational safety. So perhaps is this our first step and strong idea. In 2022, my company, Adif, launched our safety leadership program. The objective was to train and develop 1,500 safety leaders in the company's area of activity, okay? We prepare theoretical and practical training, both with presential classroom sessions and also with virtual platform for 6 months for each participant. And the main results were that at the end, 1,563 people were trained, then objective achieved, okay? The second important result is that we prepare 66 classroom sessions for all the cities in Spain, Madrid, Barcelona, Sevilla, Valencia, León, Zaragoza, Burgos, in order to promote the assistance for our workers. And perhaps a very important thing for us is that the overall satisfaction level with the program by our workers was 4.7/5. That for us is something fantastic. In August, in 2024, we received 2 international awards, an international recognition in United States, and we award the Brandon Hall a gold award for the best measurement of the impact of leadership development. I am going to take, yes, much better. And, and a silver award for us as the best leadership development program. For us, this recognition, external, has been very important, but really, the most important is that our workers has made the same recognition and they have made a very good value of our safety program. Okay, I'm going to finish this part of my participation trying to explain you with simple terms and at the same time sharing a good practice. Yeah, and we explain with a short video about 1 minute how we have got the gold award about the measurement of the impact of safety leadership.
Once in the tool on the main screen, we can see the total number of participants who have attended, as well as the progress in the different stops or phases of the program and its different activities. In another tab, we can also see the distribution of the group of participants according to some factors such as seniority, age, or gender. But what is more important is that we can filter the participants according to various factors to study if there are behavioral changes according to different groups. We're going to focus on the safety department to see how the data changes dynamically. In addition, we also have information on the impact on safety according to the perception of the participants. We can dynamically select that the information refers to certain parts of the program. Moreover, the data we see is affected by the filters in the previous tab, so we can dive into the perceptions of any interest group. In the next tab, we see how the participants consider that the program has impacted their team, taking into account the dimensions of our leadership model.
Okay, I hope you have found it interesting. And now I am going to have the floor to my colleague Gregory Rolina, that is team leader at ERA. Oh, sorry. I repeat again. I hope you have found this video interesting. And now I am going to, to have the floor to my colleague Gregory Rolina, that is a team leader at ERA. Gregory Rolina, the floor is yours, and the slide control 2, okay?
Thank you very much, Juan. It's a great pleasure to present and share with you some of the current development of initiatives that we have been undertaken at ERA for several years now, which address safety leadership. And thank you, Juan Luis. I like your metaphor. And I agree with this, and I think I was not the only one. When we went together with Kim and Bart, we started in 2017 with this topic. We were really convinced that it's like maybe the only valid axiom for safety, that safety leadership is a prerequisite to make a change, to improve safety in a sustainable way. And that we had to secure a high-level commitment inside any organization. So, but how to do that? And here we took benefit of our experience, and in my particular case, of an experience I had with the Institute for an Industrial Safety Culture, and with an existing training that was deployed successfully in oil and gas. And the key ingredient of this successful training was a film, an emotional film that relates an accident. And I could have seen this was able to move, to really move the participants and to make a change at an individual level. So it's only a training. I always used to saying it's not a magic wand. More than that is needed to really develop safety leadership. But it has proven to be an impactful tool. And my close colleagues here from outside ERA, from European Railways, will share their views on how this training that was initially ERA training, and now is much more than this. It's our training, their training, the training of all participants. And before I give the floor to Björn, Björn was actually maybe also the first person interested in this. We piloted this training with ExCom of Thalys at that time. So yes, the film is a story. This picture is a story of Vincent and Jordan, actually in this picture. And we had developed, because of course us, we have limited resources. European Railways are quite broad organizations, quite complex. So us, three of us, now even though we have great colleagues, Clarisse, Fabrizio, Rafal, Christophe, and others, João, who have been delivering this, we need we need more skilled professionals who knows the company characteristics, the linguistic skills needed for their companies. So we had developed a scheme to qualify them, that we have progressively designed also together. But now it's open, and we have created together a community of safety leadership trainers. We meet every year, we improve the training, and it's completely open. We just have, we accept everyone. We want this club, this family, this community to continue growing. So please spread the word. The more, the better. It's some steps to go through, but it's clearly doable. And yes, we are quite proud of these figures because, again, it was a pilot, one initiative from us, but thanks to this community, growing community, now more than 2,000 staff, 2,000 rail professionals across Europe have been trained, know more about safety leadership, have been able to develop their skills. And yes, we are happy with these figures. And I will stop here and pass the floor to the partners in crime.
Thank you, Gregory. So just to share you a little bit about Eurostar, who we are. We are a railway company operating high-speed trains, transporting 19 million passengers every year across 5 countries, having 2,700 colleagues, a little under 40 nationalities, operating 51 train sets and being an RU, an ECM, a keeper. So I hope I have a lot of peers in this room. And I would like to convince you, because I saw firsthand in my previous career in oil and gas what leadership could bring to the safety performance of a company. So I was immediately convinced about this, and that's why Eurostar, with Eurostar Group today is Thales and Eurostar joined together, both companies. In Thales, we piloted this training. Today, we have 6 qualified trainers. Since the merger, we have decided to train all our operational managers and all our senior leaders. That's our objective. By the end of the year, we'll be at 82%. Early next year, we will be at 100%, and then we'll start extending the training to other members of the company. That's our plan.
Thank you, Bjorn. So I was speaking before the break. So Irish Rail is about 4,500 employees now. We're edging towards 5,000 as we expand. And we've been involved with the safety leadership program since very early on. Kay Doyle is safety director, involved early in the development of the content, and we were one of the first companies, I believe, who looked into delivering it to our own staff. We trained up about 4 trainers, I think, in 2019. Gregory and Kim came to Irish Rail and delivered to our senior leader team. And after that, we got agreement to roll it out more broadly. We trained up 4 trainers in 2020. Unfortunately, all our good plans to roll out were impacted by the pandemic. We made the decision together with ERA that it wasn't appropriate to deliver this kind of training online. So we had to wait until the social distancing rules passed and we could pick up. So in 2022, we started training in earnest. We started with senior leaders with the core ERA course with some minor modifications for our own local delivery. And we trained around 100 senior leaders in that year. Then in the 2 following years, we actually changed our focus to frontline managers and supervisors, and we made some more substantial adaptations to the course. It was still very much based around the very impactful film and the content, but we moved away from some of the themes like vision. We replaced it with a teamwork module that was more appropriate for that group. And we trained about 350 of our frontline leaders in those 2 years. This year, we've returned to our senior leadership. There's been some turnover. There were some that we didn't catch in the first round, so we're going back to that group, and we aim to train another 100. I think we're over halfway to that now, and we should get 100 by the end of the year. So that's the rollout in Irish Rail to date.
Thank you, Nora. Bernard Pellers, I'm coming from Infrabel, and you know, Gregory, I'm remembering the day of the film from Saipem, and it was really emotional and gave a lot of emotion to the room. And it's at this moment you decide to make something typically for the railway. And I'm really proud to have following your work, and a little bit, I help a little bit at a different stage. Already for the first film, the first film is in Infrabel, it's filmed in Infrabel. And also, we have made the second film in Infrabel too, The Following Step. You will see now. I'm not spoiling, because there is a photo, there is the pictures you see upstairs. In fact, the safety leadership training in Infrabel took some time to put in place. But now we are starting since the beginning of this year, and for the top 200. And already we have 15 classes, 15 sessions already made. And all the top 200 is done. And we are now on a voluntary basis trying to give that at the level just under the top 200. And you see here we have a very supportive CEO on the left up pictures who help us a lot to share this leadership in our company.
Thank you, Bernard. My name is Hans, and I represent Railcare. A short presentation. I think this is the smallest company taking the stage these 2 days. We are just 200 employees, but like Kim started saying yesterday, a lot of railway, we have a large area of operations. And I just looked up, if you go from the southern port of Sweden in Trelleborg up to our most northern station in Riksgränsen, it's 2,000 kilometers. If I instead go south, I would end up in Rome in Italy. So our 200 staff, they operate all over this area. A couple of years ago, we started to use CRM training from the aviation industry to work on non-technical skills, health and safety culture. And I will not go deep into it, but if you don't know CRM, it started after the big disaster on Tenerife in 1977. NASA was involved in developing this, and they started calling it, it's been CRM all the way, but from the beginning, they meant cockpit resource management. It was only the pilots, but then they understood that it involves more people, so it became cabin resource management. And after that, it turned into crew resource management. And why do I talk about this? Well, for us, when we instead found the safety leadership training with ERA, I took the course in Valenciennes 2 years ago. I found the film very, very good, so I wanted to spread it further. So I asked my colleague Joachim to go and take the training last year, and he also found it very, he also wanted to be part of this. So we both went for the Train the Trainer last year, and then we trained our senior management and our project managers and so on. But we want to take it further. Just like the aviation, they went from the captains to the cockpit to the crew. We go with the frontline staff. So this year we will have more than 100 of our frontline staff trained.
Thank you. My name is Stefanos Oroklidis, and I work at Stasi. Stasi is the company that operates metro and tram in Athens, Greece. And part of this operation is also to use a small part of the national railway infrastructure to reach the Athens International Airport. So last February, we had a group of managers who received the safety leadership training from Kim and Gregory as part of the technical assistance program provided to Greece by ERA after the Tempe accident. And last July, two of us were certified as safety leadership trainers. So we have already provided the training to 10 colleagues, 10 managers, and now we are at the beginning of the implementation program. We intend to start from senior management, and then of course frontline staff. It's about 400 colleagues.
Okay, thank you so much, dear colleagues, for your interesting contribution. We have here the 5 safety leadership principles. These principles are updated, and as I told Gregory yesterday, I think that are very, very useful for all of us, for our European railway sector. Now we are going to continue explaining to you each principle, and beyond, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So on the first principle, I'll tell you a little bit the story of the Eurostar Group. We started in 2022 with the ambition to think bigger and to grow from 19 million passengers to 30 million passengers. And so bringing those two organizations together, we developed a safety vision, a new safety vision based on our common strengths and our common challenges, involving the specialists of the 2 safety departments. And we developed this Think Safer vision that we presented at a safety conference with over 100 delegates. And you see a picture of that in the British Medical Association in London, where we brought about 100 people together, union reps, managers, safety specialists, also external stakeholders, to explain the vision and get their feedback about what they thought about it and what they needed to bring that vision forward. And since then, we've integrated that vision into our safety policy, into our training, our company strategy plans, so that it gets more body and more action. And you see an illustration of that in the safety leadership training. We use it to explain our vision in an introduction video and then work on it during the training. But we also build on that training to then develop our just and fair safety culture. I want to say, it's like Juan presented earlier, it's one of the trainings where we have the best feedback. People enjoy a lot coming together from different areas and talk about safety and help each other develop their safety leadership styles.
Thank you. So the second principle is be credible, lead by example, and build trust. Why is this important? I thought it was useful to give some background. I was looking recently at the literature on safety leadership and where it started, and one of the first examples given in the literature around safety leadership was actually leading by example. That's what it was taken to mean very early on. So it's got a long history, but I think also trust, which is underneath a lot of what we've been talking about throughout these 2 days, is really foundational, and it's built by that credibility of the leaders, by walking the talk and leading by example. So how do we address it during the training, the current training? The video that Gregory has already mentioned that runs through the day, there are some very clear examples of leading by example and not leading by example by the leadership in that. And particularly with our frontline supervisors and managers, they really pick up on those behaviors, and we discuss them in the training and how important they are in driving the behaviors of the other people in the organization. There's also in the training the quite old but very solid theory, the ABC, Antecedents, Behaviors, Consequences model by Skinner. And usually in our training, people have not come across this model before. They don't know about it, but it really opens their eyes to how the consequences and how somebody, the leader responding to behaviors, will influence whether those behaviors are repeated or not. And then finally, there's a module around just and fair culture, and around building that trust in that the people will be treated fairly after incidents, again, building the credibility of the senior leaders involved.
Thank you. I will present you the principle be supportive, but how can you be supportive? Like this. You take your vest and you go in the field. Merci. And there is different moments when you need to be supportive, to be there, to take care to the people. When things go well, and when things happen, well, you know, going to the field, try to communicate with the person, to build trust to the person, interact with, interacting. Not hearing is listening to that you need to do. That's important. But on the other side, you need also to be there when something happens not so well. There is safety issues, there is an accident, there is people hurt. You need to be there to take care of the persons, to take care because everybody is a victim of a safety situation. Taking care, be supportive. It's every time going on the field, hearing, listening to, and be there for them.
Yes, and then the fourth, it's be courageous. And what do we mean by that? Or why is it necessary? Well, you see the picture there. We can't have employees or leaders who doesn't dare to speak up, who doesn't dare to intervene. But then you need to be courageous. You need to be brave. And how do we get there? I think we are all getting back to this with the just culture and the trust, the importance of trust, because if we don't trust each other, and especially if our employees don't trust us, they won't dare to be brave. And one situation, if you see a dangerous situation, to dare to say stop, you need to be brave. And this is also something that links very much to the crew resource management training as well. I mean, even if you're a junior, like in the cockpit, if you're not the captain, but you need to dare to say stop. And this is something we talk quite much about during this training day. And I think that the film gives, it's really interactive, and we get a very good discussions, very good dialogue. And I think both with management, but also when we have the frontline staff, really good dialogue. So I really recommend this.
Okay, thank you. So as I said earlier, we're now at the beginning of the safety leadership training, but we have already noticed that some elements of safety leadership already exist in the company, in Stasi. One example is the operations manager. He noticed that there are some communication problems for the majority of the train drivers we have. So instead of blaming some train drivers, he actually went on the field and he wanted to realize why they behaved the way they did. And so he wanted to learn and to make some improvements on the instruction he had given to them earlier. So what we expect to achieve through this safety leadership training is first of all, highlight to the trainees the elements of the safety leadership principles that there are, so they can resonate with the training. And then, of course, we want to guide them on all 5 safety principles, as we have already just told you. And also, we think it's very important that we provide tools and concepts so that our colleagues know that they can use something in everyday work. It's not just something on the air. It's solid and can be used, and not only 1 or 2 or all 5 safety principles. We need to reinforce them, and finally get a commitment from them that in the future they will act as safety leaders.
Thank you, Stefan. So as you say, Juan Luis, this safety leadership principle have been updated. And so as it was mentioned in the short film, we had a safety leadership session back in Porto for the first Safety Days, second edition of the Safety Days, and we had a quite impressive presentation of Spartacus in the nuclear leadership. But something like we had the feeling that it was complicated to be a safety leader. And I remember Frank Goldenmoon was a commentator, so he's a distinguished professor, very specialist in safety culture. And he said, wait a minute, this is impossible to achieve. I don't know this person. He cannot have all these qualities. So what is important here is that those 5 principles, we believe, they are practical. They are for everyone to fulfill. They are demanding. Yeah, it's not easy, and that we say in the training, it's not easy to be a safety leader, but they are achievable, and they have to be fulfilled. And I'm seeing Timu as well. Timu, thank you, because he has helped us, Timu Rehman, that some of you may have seen yesterday in his workshop. He has helped a lot for this update. So, as I told you, this training is still very valid, I believe, as you can have heard, but it is already a bit aged. And so today we are very happy that we have worked all together, and especially Bernard, Vincent and his team. Thank you so much to Infrabel for being committed to help us to go on with this story of Vincent, Jordan and his colleague Diana, to go on in a more positive way even and practical way, because the first film was moving, but it was a total chaos. This company is a mess. But now we wanted, with a second training, so that's what I'm happy to reveal, with a second training to be more positive. How can we improve? This company is not such a mess anymore. How can we practically work with those principles? And that's how we introduce walking the lines. If technology allows.
You don't need to apologise, Neil. And you don't need to apologise to them for doing your job either.
I care about keeping this place afloat.
God, you'd think that today of all days we would...
Today of all days. Every day around here seems to be about Vincent and his stupidity lately.
It's good to see.
w- we are arriving at the end, and I would like to do a final reflection. How can the principle of safety leadership enable an organization to have good safety leaders? A simple question with a difficult answer. But that answer is very important, and we need to find it. I am sure that there are many different answers, but I am going to share mine with you. I see 3 clear steps. Firstly, you must believe in the 5 principles. I repeat, you must believe. Secondly, a clear and well quantified objective must be defined. Important too. And thirdly, an organizational process must be developed. I mean, planning, allocating resources, organizing, and carrying out action in a systematic and continuous way over time. Dear friends, we can do it, but what's more, we have a responsibility to do it. We must all become leaders in safety or safety leaders. And it doesn't matter our positional role in our organizations. Good luck, a lot of good luck with this great challenge. Thank you for your attention.
I believe we might have time for maybe one question from the audience, if some of you are interested in asking our panelists. Yeah, I see a volunteer.
Götz Walter, VDV. Thank you very much for the impressive presentation and the ideas. And there was this one slide with a number of companies where you have delivered already your training. And I think it's surely your aim and our all aim to have the list in 2 years much longer, many more companies. And now making the connection to Bart's impressive presentation the morning, and he highlighted that it is not only the companies, of course the companies, but also the authorities. And so my question is, are you expecting and are you intending that on your list of participants of this training are also national safety authorities, for example, because when the companies talk with the national authorities or the other way around, sometimes the culture and the principles here are somewhere in the on the table, but not in the talks.
Thank you for this question. The training is also open to national safety authorities. Some of the representatives already have attended. And we have, in addition, other training. In particular, I have in mind very good training delivered by Clarisse and Bart on safety culture oversight. Presenting some strategies for improving safety culture at the level sector, but based on the supervision plan and the regulatory activities. So we don't exclude, not at all, national safety authorities from our target audience.
Okay, I think we will conclude on this note. Thank you, and a great big hand for the panelists here. Thank you. So thank you kindly. And now we'll continue with the next session that we have prepared for you. And for this session, I would like to invite the chair, who's probably already waiting. is the director of UNIFA, so the European Union Rail Supply Association. And before joining UNIFA, in the beginning, he completed his studies in civil engineering in Germany and in South Africa, and started his career in Deutsche Bahn. After that, he worked in the UIC, in the International Union for Railways in Paris, and before joining UNIFA, he cooperated also with the agency for a long time as a long-standing technical director for the Community of European Railway and Infrastructure Companies, CER. So once again, a big hand to the chair, Enno Wiebe.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the very nice introduction. If I just may correct you in one point, I'm continuing to interact with the agency. You don't get rid of me easily, even in my new role.
Never would have hoped for that.
I don't know if this was a hidden thing here or a wish, I don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, although I'm now representing the rail supply industry, this is not necessarily a session about the rail supply industry or particularly about the manufacturers. Although we are, of course, mentioned in the Rail Safety Directive, we are only mentioned 8 times, I counted it. We, of course, play our role. We are aware of our roles and responsibilities, in particular, of course, about the occurrence reporting. But this is not about it today. What the session is about to learn from other industries, and I think this is why the agency has chosen me today as a representative of the industry. We want to have some time to think out of the box now. I think we had heard a lot about the return of experience from the railway undertakings and the infrastructure manager, of course, playing the major role in the system and having most of the responsibility, I would like to say, in the railway sector, among other actors, of course, as well. Oana, the Executive Director of the European Union Agency for Railways, started her speech at the beginning of the conference, and I like it, and I will come back to this actually, to bring the Valenciennes and Brussels bubble closer to the work reality. And I think that's really something we will remind her, of course, of this leitmotif for her current mandate. But I find it very important, and I think that's what we have learned here today and yesterday. And I would like to find out with you now and in this last panel, in this last session, how other industries have been doing this. So this is a cross-fertilization session, but I say it openly, and I know it's a sensitive topic. It is not necessarily to be seen, this session, as the blueprint for the railway sector. I would say more as an inspiration, actually. And I will do this today, and the agency colleagues will now then guide me if everything works properly here with the attendance. I will start today with Anna Maria Teperi, followed by Nicolas Deschy. Then we will see how the program goes, and you will. Followed by Lea Sophie Trampic-Wink, and Nipin Anno will close the session. And we will cover today the feedback from the aviation sector, the maritime sector, nuclear sector, construction sector, and chemical. And what I find particularly interesting, of course, as the representative of the rail supply industry, is to talk about challenges here at other industry. Nicola, we talked about this before this session. Supply chain, of course, is an important issue for the industry. Contractual relationships between the different actors, but as well on opportunities. And I would like to invite my very first speaker to the stage. Anna Maria Teperi, coming from Finland. And I have the pleasure, actually, not to read out your entire biography, but what I find particularly interesting, if I may do so. Research professor of occupational safety at the Finnish Institute of Occupational Health. What I find amazing in your biography, and this is what I want to share with the participants, you're a member of the expert panel of sustainable development at the Prime Minister's office in Finland. Respect for this. been specialized in work and organizational psychology, and you have a very long experience, and all the speakers do have a very long experience, in human-oriented safety research, implementation, and supervision related to safety-critical fields. You're definitely an enrichment for today's panel. Thank you much for being here, and I would like to give you the floor. I think we have a microphone over there, or you take this one.
Yeah, this is working. Thank you so much, Enno, for your friendly words, and thank you for the kind invitation for Bart, Akus, somewhere here, and all the others from ERA. So after this nice introduction, it's my honor and pleasure to be here. So hopefully you will maintain your vigilance still this third session that goes beyond railway. And also my presentation includes also examples from Finnish railway industry. And just to mention and to start with, this is my some kind of also personal story from the 25 years of part with human factors and how to implement them in practice in different kind of safety critical contexts. And there are, of course, several other kind of parts in Finland, in Europe, and several colleagues around Europe. So this is one story. And pleasure to be here. Yeah, this is something to start with. I'm a psychologist. That means that I will always put the human being there at the center, and after that I try to address how the work conditions, work environment, equipment, and technology should be wrapped there around the human being. So I think that it is always important to try to understand how we are as persons and which kind of issues would help us to succeed. And as said, I have some roles in academics and scientific research, leading a human factor researchers team in Finnish Institute of Occupational Health. We are 10 researchers currently, from engineers to psychologists, social scientists there. So really multi-professional team there. And also maybe half of my current work is with climate change and sustainable development in the Finnish context, and more trying to, my maybe earlier career has been more working with industries and companies, and currently I'm trying to also convince political decision makers that this kind of social sustainability, occupational safety issues, they are really important also in politics. So my background is with these kind of areas, starting from 2000, 25 years ago, so feeling a bit old here with these issues, but I worked for 10 years for air traffic management company, air navigation service provider in Finland called Finavia. And that was a really important personal growth path for myself to learn about human factors and how they should be implemented and really bake into the structures of the companies so that it would produce a real mindset and not only superficial kind of norms or guidelines there. And then I will today have examples from nuclear industry, maritime, nuclear, and railway. And we have also conducted research with construction industry and chemical industry. And at the end of this presentation, I try to wrap everything in 20 minutes so that the next speaker will also have space. So a few words about our current Horizon EU project with civil infrastructure. This slide has followed us several years, while I think that this is a little bit old already, but I will carry it with me as far as I see that these issues are not true in everyday business in Finnish or European companies. So this tries to describe this kind of paradigm shift that has been going on already for a while in safety research, and I think that part of you really well recognized this, and I think that this kind of balancing discussion has been also hailing around today in today's discussions. So how to balance safety. One kind of more traditional safety research, looking at risks, probabilities, severities, calculating these kind of maybe a little bit more technical kind of issues. And then at the same time complement this kind of traditional safety management practices with this kind of new safety thinking and looking at more in a systemic way, maybe more solution-based way, and try to see in a broader view and not only staring at human individual errors, for example. As we well know, there are risks of blaming culture and these kind of issues. So what we have tried to do with our research team in Finland, we have tried to develop tools and methods, practical tools for this kind of safety new kind of safety thinking, in which we try to help people to succeed in their everyday operations. My main tool during all these 25 years has been this kind of human factor tool. I realize that it can seem a little bit naive at this point, but this was something that I started with 25 years ago with air traffic controllers. A little bit about the history. I went there as a quite young psychologist. I was in my 30s, and air traffic controllers, they are really strong. They have a strong trade union, and they had been in a strike for 5 weeks in Finland in 1999. And all the air traffic a little bit collapsed in Finland, and for example, Prime Minister needed to launch a campaign that, hey, this must be stopped, and so on. There was a role then for me to start with working with this navigation service provider and try to build up there more this kind of human-centered approach. And when I started this work, I had a vacancy to start with human factors expert. I realized that engineers came to me and said that, hey, nice, you are high frequency expert, welcome to the company. And then came the next engineer saying that, hi, you are hands-free expert. And then I realized that this HF, human factors, needs to be explained really in a concrete way. And I had a thought that, okay, I need a really simple picture with which to show people in this company, 2,000 people from Helsinki to Rovaniemi, what is human factors all about. And with this bubble model, 4-leaf model, I tried to show that, hey, it is of course something to do with individuals, vigilance, motivation, attitudes, mastery of work processes, but it is also about all these contextual factors like working conditions, usability issues, technology, and group factors, group dynamics, communication, and also organizational factors like organizational culture, as we have nicely heard today. And I launched this figure as a model into the organization, and the main point was to show to that organization what is human factors all about, and that there is a holistic view to that, and also used in a positive way. And why this kind of tool was needed, as said, they had a strike, there was a crisis in the beginning, and there was a need to do something more proactively, not to go to the strike anymore, but try to build something human-centered there in the organization. And this tool was more intended for the operational personnel themselves, so that they would use this tool. Of course, in trainings, I trained air traffic controllers to human factors. In their basic course, they had 1 week lessons included to their training, so that they could have a really good picture of human factors. And also, there was a need for an easy-to-use tool, not complicated as safety professionals use, Aximap or other stamp or other methods. So something easier, something easy to tackle, and as mentioned, could be embedded in everyday life. This is one example that how we have used this. So using human factor tool, we have, for example, helped companies to model day events or operational events or accidents, injuries like this. First, they describe the event timeline with the blue line here, and then try to cover up the red line to search for weaknesses, what was failed. But what was the most important part of this timeline is this green part, a little bit aligning safety to kind of thinking what was working well. How did the people succeed? How they anticipated? How they mitigated? How they coped or recovered from the case? And as it sounds easy, so with these two figures, we have helped several industries and sectors to more openly maybe to talk about human factors. When we look at also the positive points and successes, it is refreshing the atmosphere in the safety discussions. Not so much having tensions, but also talking how did we manage well. And yes, this is a figure, but it is like a concept, so that it includes basic training, trainer training, investigative tools, corrective actions, and actions for top managers. So it has been used with several industries in Finland. There are some examples to follow. Hopefully that is not mine.
That's not for you. No.
Alarm. Wake up if you fell in sleep. Thank you for that. So, yes, thanks a lot. So, as said, the air traffic management was the first corner to start with. I was lucky. I could work with them for 10 years, and I was in there, and I could work full time, having a position as a human factor expert. So what I started from was just modeling out their work processes. Which kind of work processes they have, which is critical there, or what would they like to say to the top management. Try to build this kind of open communication between top management, middle management, trade unions, which was really tough there, etc. And the important point was that the operators, air traffic controllers, themselves participated. And human factor tool was embedded in a safety management system, so I thought that it is not just training or raising awareness, but we really need to bake this human factor tool and human factor approach into the structures, everyday structures of the company. And there were several ways, for example, risk analysis, event analysis, and we had a follow-up with 5 researchers from our team, and we noticed that this human factor tool is still in use in that company. Then we continued to nuclear power industry. This was more like a scientific research, not so embedded, I would say, honestly, a little bit more like we trained this tool for them. Part of the safety experts took the human factor tool and this approach there. Of course, safety culture has been really strong, and that related work in the nuclear industry in Finland, so that helped, of course, but I think that there are still some weaknesses, maybe in that sense, that it could be maybe more strongly embedded there. Then maritime was the following field. Also starting with scientific research, we had eight maritime organizations, both regulators, shipping companies here, and as the maritime is, we know it's really traditional. Sailing is really old profession, so the main issue maybe there was that they were not even reporting openly. They had a saying that what happens at the sea, it stays there, it remains there, it is not openly reported. And they found in the human factor tool that this positive angle would help them to report more openly. So maybe that was the most important pickup from there. But currently I have one PhD student. He is now finalizing his doctoral thesis, and he had nicely used this model and tool in his thesis, so to study high-speed workloads and mental workload of crews there. So there are some fresh results from that. then if this button is working, I would go to railway, and there was a really good, systematic, detailed program with Finland VR group. We have one member from that company still here. So we started from the accident investigation. There was quite a rough case, double speed by the train driver, and I was then working for the Finnish Accident Investigation Board, and we implemented a recommendation that Finnish authority and companies in railway need to implement human factors to their safety management systems, and authority needs to audit this recommendation. And it was a really proactive action, I think so. VR group was really active with this. We had a 5-year program with them. For example, we trained 60 safety experts, human factor experts there in the company, and they further trained 1,000 workers to the human factors approach. So it was important to implement that capability into the organization. This is one summary of the scientific research. As told, we made a follow-up in the aviation company and also in this railway company. And this cylinder here is trying to describe and squeeze the results, including 20 interviews, workshop intervention material, and 13 organizational indicators. So this figure is really simple, but it tries to describe that when you start raising awareness from this bottom of this cylinder, start here, it says starts here, you start to raise awareness and start to train people to human factors sector there. And you can start with that, but that is not enough. After that, you really need to implement the human factor tools and methods into the safety practices there, procedures, practices, policies. And only after that you can expand the implementation, and you start to see also issues going there in the everyday working practices. So this is what we learned, that they are expanding, but it really needs a good stamina. You need to little bit be like a terrier when you follow up and have this part with human factors. The recent example is SARA Horizon project. We are conducting this with France, Spain, Italy, and trying to improve civil infrastructure repairing and maintenance. For example, viaducts, 100 tall bridges where railway and cars go, they may have cracks, and we are trying to improve human-centered system design for this kind of maintenance, so that people don't have to repair the tall bridges or ropeways, tunnels, working in high, but they can use drones or digital twins or metaverses to conduct this work. But these equipment need to be human-centered, and human factor tool is in the center of this project. So thank you for your attention. We have about 1 minute left, and if I might say something to wrap up, what is my lessons learned from the 25 years of human factors, I would say that you need a holistic view, a systemic view, not to stare at the individual actions. Then you need to be positive, solution-based, so that you believe that people really want to work well and you can trust them. And then you need to be participative, so that you hear the people, you listen what they say, as well nicely described already today. So people know what it is there in the field. You just need to listen and believe what are the people's stories. They know how it goes at everyday life. So thank you, and if there are any comments, I'm happy to answer. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Anna Maria. Please stay with me here. That was really impressive. 3 sectors, aviation, maritime, rail, in precisely 20 minutes, including the summary and the perfect overview about a very concise presentation. I would like to move on to the next session, actually, or to the next speaker. We are moving from aviation, maritime, and rail now to nuclear. I have here, or we have here, Nicolas Deschy. Nicolas, to describe you in 2 words, I put it on my briefing note, nuclear expert. I think you are the perfect expert for this part of the industry. You're working at the French Authority for Nuclear Safety and Radiation Protection. I take the highlights of your biography, if you allow me. So it's been 25 years, actually. You have been an industrial risk and safety management expert for this public French institute. You're working in accident investigation, risk analysis, crisis management. You have been starting with human and organizational factors in 2001. And since 2023, you have been leading a team of 10 HOF experts assessing safety management in all, and this is something that is very notable, in all nuclear facilities in France. So I think you're the brilliant expert for this session.
Thank you, Eno, for this kind introduction and personal one. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm impressed to have the honor to present in front of you. I would like to thank Gregory, Rolina, who invited me. We share in common the same PhD research topic, and I'm going to mention it about HOF expert practices. So a subtitle of my title is How We Can Perform Organizational Diagnosis or Analysis of Organizational Factors in Complex Systems. Another subtitle is to open the expert black box, expert judgment, how we use grid of analysis in human and organizational factors to assess safety management in practice. I will give you the context in which we perform such HOF assessment. I will give you a case study in maintenance on nuclear power plants. I will reflect with you on complexity, variability, uncertainty, as many others these last 2 days on outages for maintenance, and I will give you some hints and examples of how we use lessons from accidents. I must say that one of my concerns as a researcher for 25 years is how we do not use lessons from accidents. I see repeated patterns of accidents, and with other colleagues and researchers, we try to codify knowledge of accidents and use it. And my PhD has been on that. So just to give you the context of the integrated regulator and experts I work for, it's a new integrated body of 2,000 people integrated, the regulator and the former expert technical support organization. So we have 4 main jobs: inspection, regulation, assessing, and research. There are similar models in the world, like the US Nuclear Regulatory Commissions, and as well in some countries, other countries, especially in Europe, we have the 2 models with separation of the regulator and the TSO. Our institute delivers 300 expertise assessments. They are mainly performed by 15 safety engineering departments, except 1 department in human and organizational factors, which I mentioned now. So it's 25 people with an expertise bureau I'm going to speak in next slide. But there is also, for 10 years now, a research lab on human and social sciences that is focusing on normal operation, so competencies, safety culture, risk analysis, learning, on degraded situation, but also risk governance, so to be critically reflexive on how we regulate or expertise the risk management in general. I should mention also that there are 5 human and organizational factor specialists at the former regulator, transforming our expertise conclusion into regulations, ready-made for inspections and guidelines. and those colleagues conduct inspections on competencies, operations, maintenance, subcontracting, learning, and so on. What is doing the expert bureau I manage? So it's 10 human and organizational factor specialists coming from different backgrounds. As I said, it started 40 years ago. So we delivered 400 expertise reports collectively for 40 years, so 10 per year, or 1 per person per year. So one investigation in human factors is almost a year for us. There is a wide range, small ones, a few pages, few interviews, to medium and big one. And I'm going to give an example of big ones, organizational diagnosis. On the right part of the slides, there are the different topics we address. So that's classical, I would say, and the key questions are classical: safe enough, safety is improving or degrading, are the management provisions efficient or not? What I must add is that our entry point, as Fabrice said, is human work. We focus on practice, not work as imagined. It's part of it, but work as done. So we are not auditors nor inspectors. Then we start with those entry points of the work of anybody in the social technical system as a way to question the link between micro, meso, macroscopic links towards management. And one example is to focus on decision making. I will go to the example now in maintenance on nuclear power plant. To give you an overview of the complexity of the organization. I know it's less complex than French SNCF, which has bigger organization with and subcontractors, but at least the nuclear industry is a complex organization. The French nuclear power plant energy producer is 23 people working over there, but there are also 23,000 workers in 400 subcontracting companies working for them. So, of course, there is complexity, diversity, and variability. And those outages are particularly complex. They are planned to do planned maintenance, preventive maintenance, but also curative maintenance to refuel the nuclear fuel. They may last several months. They may involve 5,000, 10,000 to 20,000 when it lasts 6 months. And there are several hundred workers, maybe 1,000 for 20,000 activities over 6 months to plan, make. If you want to make an investigation, an organizational diagnosis in such system, it's too big. So you have to frame, focus on key safety management issues because it's too wide. You have to accept that you can't cover everything, but you have to justify where you want to look at because you think it's very important to look at some potential failures. This on the right, you can see the key topics we selected. So on the right side, you have 2 topics of complexity and interface with subcontractors. So continuity of decision, interface management, and especially with the contractors. Of course, the resource management, the competencies, and the learning issues, and I will explain the management of change. To give you an overview of the methods, we made 150 interviews, 70 days of work observation in the nuclear power plant, and we have to be humble. We are just sampling. It's just a little sample in such a complex system. We went to the US and Canada to benchmark other organizations. We read 3,000 documents to perform this analysis. So as in such complex industry like railway, nuclear plans, program, maintenance work for 10 years before they prepare it. And the last year before the outage, they start to prepare 5,000 activities. So this is several months, 100 people prepare those activities. Then they give the preparation documents to the subcontractors mainly, but not only. who have to appropriate the maintenance activities, and of course, during the outage, it's managed, it has to be performed, and there is a learning loop. When I said continuity of decision making, along the interfaces, you can imagine that there are several interactions for years, months to follow, and they are influenced by different kind of constraints, which I'm going to detail yet later. To give you an overview, just an overview of the conclusion, this is the modeling of the conclusions we found, looking at the first circle. So the blue circle around is looking at conditions. So influence factors which are relevant for the efficiency of safety and radiation protection during those outages. So for instance, good information, appropriate competencies, prepared activities, good interfaces. So nothing new, I would say. But what we made is 15 recommendations on different levels in green to reinforce those conditions which have been found, let's say, fragile or could be improved. I will give you 2 examples later in the presentation of those recommendations. Reflecting on what we found, I should have said that the operator insists a lot on planning, and there were some presentations this morning insisting on the importance of planning. But what we understood when we reflected upon this investigation is that the operator faced so many unexpected situations, and there were several key messages, speakers mentioning this for the last 2 days. So we try to classify the unexpected situation the teams face. Sometimes they face simple, intermediate, complicated, complex, and atypical unexpected situation. Some were quite frequent, quite severe, and the handling could depend from the prior availability of a solution, of course, or not, and the socio-technical complexity or network to establish to solve the problem. And of course, there is a kind of escalation of, and it's what is happening. But we found also that the organization faced variability and uncertainties at different levels, so strato, macroscopic, meso, and micro, affecting the conditions. And I think there was some presentation, maybe Fabrice again, about the variability of the organizational conditions in which people work. If I take only one example, I say the company invests a lot on planning those 5,000 maintenance activities, and they try to freeze the program so it can be performed right and prepared correctly. But in between the time they froze 6 months before the outage, there are unexpected events and failure of equipment which occur, and this adds to the program. And when they open the nuclear power plants for maintenance, they discover other problems. So it keeps adding up, and sometimes the program increase of 25, 50, or 75%, which is a good example of what we mean by unexpected and variability. And so the organization must stretch, adapt, add resources a lot. And the operator was thinking too much on planning and not putting as much as processes, resources to cope with this variability and unexpected situation. Now I enter the last part of the presentation, how we open the expert black box to be reflexive and critical of whole expert judgment. When we started the investigation, as I say, we have to justify the scope. What we discovered is that the operator was conducting several changes which are mapped on this scheme, but this scheme didn't appear like this. It's not the operator scheme, it's our scheme. And why we made this scheme? To explain the operator that he was making several changes simultaneously affecting its organization. And what we had in mind when we showed this is echoes of an organizational accident famously known, which is Columbia accident, where torrents of change made the organization unstable. And so what we've done is that we review several accidents with failures of management of change. We made a publication on that to prepare our grid of analysis to make our safety judgment. We use this scheme or artifact to translate the lessons from accidents or the assumptions we had on a potential fragility of the organization before we started the investigation. And finally, we found evidence of difficulties for people to work in such a turbulent context, and we made some recommendation for the operator to stabilize its organization, to reduce the pace of change, and to adapt the number and simultaneity of changes to the capacity of the people to digest information, to digest change, to change their networks and assign. A second example is something we didn't plan. We studied decision-making. We had in mind production pressures and safety trade-off. But when the operator has a very good organizations to manage and make decisions with a strong structure, a project management team of 50 people and 10 people sitting in a room 12 hours a day, I would say, integrating all competencies to make the different trade-offs between safety, radiation, and so on, and production, and make a good decision in integration process. But what we saw is that during those interactions, sometimes instead of demonstrating safety, people to stop the project, to make more safety on the side, had to prove the opposite, proving that if they didn't do something, this would lead to the accident. And in fact, we remember, again, a NASA accident, Challenger accident, and the slides on the left part of this slide is what I presented during using the rhetoric as Mr. Pomeroy presented this morning, to use this artifact, this image, to convince about this risk of drift, of challenge of the department. So I have 3 minutes left. So to reflect on the conclusion, I have only 2 slides, so it's full time. Be careful. Assessing such organization is maybe impossible, it's too big. So you have to be reasonable. We are not auditors, we are not inspectors, and we have to scope to start with real practices. It has been said regularly. You have to be careful of the means you provide those teams to investigate. It's 2-year duration, maybe, 5 main years of work, independently from the operator. The entry point I already mentioned. Several people mentioned the evidence. It's key to provide stories of decision-making, of activity, real activity, correctly described. Gregory spoke about stories, to provide evidence for expert judgment and institutional validation by people who didn't see the field. What I found funny or not is that when we conducted this investigation, we heard or we recognized echoes of Columbia, Challenger, but also of Paddington, Ladbroke Grove accidents with the famous Lord Cullen report about fragmentation, complexity, and in the nuclear case, maintenance case, and when we concluded our investigation in 2013, 1 month after, there was the Brittany accident, and there was another good report to read on the organizational analysis of it, made by a consultancy company called Apteis. We found echoes in those accidents from the nuclear case I just presented you. So to show, like Eno mentioned it, the transposability of lessons from a sector to another or inspiration. Last level of reflection, it's important that as human and organizational factors, we promote inside our organizations deconstructivist and critical reflective perspective on the health models and tools we use to assess safety management or to promote management of safety with human factors. I presented you only example of use of knowledge of accidents, but in my research, in my PhD, I also look at how HRO concept or other human and social sciences references were useful. And in the report, we mentioned 100 references. So it's not auditing. We use 100 papers references to support our expert judgment. That's what we could say about some examples of knowledge. Gregory, in his PhD, showed that an expertise assessment is creating new knowledge, generating learning, but we are facing limits. We have to be conscious of the limits of our investigation. We have to be humble, and this is echoing with postmodernism, limits of truth mentioned by others. There are 4 systems which are in interaction, but are all social construction of risk: evaluation, expertise, management, and regulation. I integrated in my research the risk of risk management, how our artifacts of risk assessments are performative. We translate uncertainties into risk management. And during my PhD, I had the opportunity to read a lot and reflect on other concepts available for 20 years, but I went over the time, so I won't mention them. That's for food for thought or more. Thank you for your attention. And now it's over. I can't
Thank you very much to both of you. Thank you very much, Nicolas. I think the last thing was that people could digest the slide a little bit longer. That was the intention of not going on. Are there any questions coming from the room? Just perhaps one question, short question. Are there online questions? No, I understood the sign language. It was very clear, thank you. I just want to come back, and this is a question to Era now, for the next panel. Anna Maria said, or put in her slides, this is now the question if you followed carefully, ability to anticipate, help people succeed. Question, can you help the moderator now with the next session if we continue? This is not safety critical yet here, but do we continue now or do we make the...
I think we'll break for coffee for 5 minutes, yes, and then we can come back, and then perhaps if there are some questions with new power, new energy, perhaps we can have all the participants.
Excellent.
And then we'll have a session. Half an hour break for coffee, and thank you all, of course, a big hand to our speakers.
Can you share with me maybe a memorable moment from this training?
When I was training the people in the dry run, after the finalization of the movie, some of them were crying.
Oh wow.
And it was my feeling that we have achieved. We have achieved.
I like a lot the play because it involved us and brings us to us on a stage in front of all the other colleagues to try to find solution on something sudden